Conservation Commission. Our first item is to review and approve minutes. Ken?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes. Want me to read them all, or just?
Yeah, why don't you read the four, Ken, that?
All right, so the minutes for March 15th, 2016, November 20th, 2018, March 16th, 2021, and January 17th, 2023.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. I have just one comment on January 17, just to conclude that note with meeting adjourned. We talked about that, Alea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Second item, signed bills. Do we have any, Alea?
No, we just have a community advocate bill, started coming to
Okay.
us all of a sudden, so just need approval for you to.
What is it? Is it?
Community
Community
advocate.
advocate, so you just need to vote for us to approve it for you.
Where do you want us to sign on this? Just,
No, I didn't make a motion to, to pay it, so.
that's all you want to do, and make a
Yeah.
motion on it? Okay.
How much is it?
It is $221.10.
Or how,
Or there's like four
For
hearings. They're tonight's hearings, actually.
Mhm.
So would someone like to make a motion to approve it?
I make a motion, we approve the bill to Community Advocate for $221.10.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to our meetings and hearings. Our first meeting is actually a continued public hearing. It's regarding the notice of intent filed by Rashid Shaki, 24 Sherrill Drive, Shrewsbury, for the construction of two single-family houses at 42 Sadler Ave and 37 to 39 Melvin Ave.
Hey, good evening. You don't have Rashid this evening, so you
Oh,
just
I
get
know.
Scott and Bert. He's at a funeral this evening.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Is that an appropriate place to put the plant?
That's
I know
good
it's
for
a
us,
lot,
yeah.
lot of distance
Yeah,
to cover.
and they can catch it on the video. If anybody in the audience would like to move and to see this, feel free to move up.
120, and that does have an update on it.
So, since the last meeting,
Yeah.
a couple of things have happened. We left the meeting with a few homework items. One of them was to sort out with the building inspector's office the appropriatenesses of allowing the areas under the dwelling to flood and such with the flood openings. That's been done. We believe that's been satisfied with the building department. We think it's consistent with Mass Building Code. It's certainly consistent with the Wetland Protection Act and the practices of DEP allowing for flood storage in those areas. The other item, well, there was another item about the design, right, Bert, on the flood opening? Did you want to comment on
The
that?
garage was a concern about the garage. That was going to be also flooded. But-
Yes, yeah, and the plans have been updated with the flood fence, the detail has been added. Those plans were given to Rashid, and I believe he had a discussion with the building inspector.
Okay.
They may have issued a letter, I've never seen a copy of the letter, but I
All right.
thought that they.
Can you just describe a little bit that change in design on the garage? Then you've added flood vents to the walls on the garage?
Yes, yeah, so it is shown on the plans in a couple of locations where these flood vents are. They're based on, the building code says that there has to be 1 square inch of opening for every 1 square foot of gross floor area. So within the garage area, I forget the number, but I think it was around, say, 500 square feet, which means it had to have 500 square inches of opening. It's 144 square inches per square foot, so they're not very big as far as the size of these to satisfy that requirement for the building code. They're located on the plan and the garage as well as in the foundation too, around the
They
perimeter.
were in the foundation at the last meeting.
Yeah,
so-
yeah,
but-
they were on the garage too.
Were they on the
It wasn't
garage?
as noticeable,
Okay,
but yes.
all right.
Yeah.
Can you also tell us a little bit on the, garage? How much in a flood condition would water inundate that garage? To what, what height above finished floor?
Yeah, okay, so briefly, the floodplain that's on this site, I'm just gonna go over to the board here. goes from 397.2 on this lot
Okay,
to 398.5 here. It's a worst-case scenario.
okay.
Matter of fact, I think the previous round of this, that was permitted for the building on this lot, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was kept at the 397.2 for the entire distance. It's just that we've found that there's a 398.5, so we're going with a more conservative route.
Right, in other words, the previous order of conditions that we discussed at the last meeting took the lowest flood elevation for the full width of the lot and carried that one elevation across the whole property.
Okay.
Whereas actually a sliding scale of elevations. So this is a more conservative, we consider the higher floodplain on this redesign than what was in the approved order of conditions site plan.
All right,
Yeah, so in this case, the enclosed parking slab is at 397. So if we go back to the previous one at 397.2 and 397, it'd really be 0.2 feet or a little over 2 inches would be in that. At 398.5 and 397, there's
Yeah.
a foot and a half
Right.
on the 100-year floodplain. That could enter the garage, but again, with the flood vents too, it's also gonna be maneuvered around. But if the flood comes up to 398.5, it's at 398.5. It's not going to recede until that recedes.
right. So we're talking on the worst-case basis there, how many feet in?
1.5 feet,
How much?
1.5.
1.5, roughly, okay. All right.
The other item we discussed at the last meeting was the appropriateness or lack thereof of calling the stream as designated as intermittent versus perennial. So the way that I see that is there's two ways to sort of peel that. One is, since we have a nearby lot, albeit it is upgradient with intermittent status, you know, and I do think that even though we don't have the direct observations required by the regulations on this lot in particular, extrapolation of that is not an unreasonable assumption. That's why we went forward with it as designated as intermittent. If that was found as an unacceptable methodology or inappropriate for this application in the site, then the revert position would be the clause under 1058, under the exemption section, where it cites that lots created pre-1996, when the Rivers Act was put into effect, those lots that are within the closer proximities to the rivers, 200 foot, 100 foot, et cetera, are grandfathered in or you know, sort of pre-existing that condition. So they're allowed to be constructed for single-family houses. So in this case, we have two lots that would satisfy that criteria that are adjacent next to each other, each in and of their own right satisfy the zoning requirements and all predate 1996. So that we would have to use that clause if we were to designate the stream and treat it as a perennial stream. So which either way the commission would like to view the lot, I think it's up to your discretion. There's grounds for both angles that I can see, and we would just seek to get the order of conditions issued accordingly. So that would be sort of my take on that issue.
Yep. Go back to the order that's standing right now. That was classified as perennial under
Correct.
that order.
It was.
How does your design differ? I know the other one was for one house. We have two now. We're utilizing both lots. How does it differ construction-wise from that first filing in terms of offsets and all to the stream?
The offsets are, you know, you can see the distance from the house to the stream is fairly uniform based on the setbacks from the road, because the road parallels the stream.
Mhm.
So the setbacks are pretty much the same. It's a larger amount of square footage of alteration within that zone, because now we have two
The two
separate
homes.
dwellings as opposed to one dwelling. So they just took the one dwelling and balanced the square footages with the combined lot. And if you, even though the lot was never combined on paper with the town, planning board and whatnot, with the 81X or A&R type of a plan, these lot lines still stood. If you create a new lot line by that kind of means and treat take two old lots and make one new lot, you know, that you can lose that
Yeah.
pre-96 exemption. That only holds true if you respect the original 96 boundaries, which this plan does. I think that's it,
Oh, that's it, okay.
yeah.
Martha?
Regardless of whether the stream is considered perennial or intermittent, do you have any sense of how it behaves in storm conditions? I know that some streams can be really flashy and can come up and recede very, very quickly. And I'm trying to think ahead to people who might be living in these houses and having to deal with the possibility that their home is going to flood, the garage is going to flood.
Right.
They're gonna need to move the car, lawnmower, et cetera, whatever else they had in store there. So what's
don't-
your sense of the behavior of the
I
stream?
mean, I guess because I don't, you know, I know there's people here in the audience that do live there, right? And they could probably speak to that because they see it more on a more regular basis. My observations as a scientist is that we have an upgradient pond that is heavily controls what happens here. So how the outlet control structures of that pond are managed affects how much flow, how rapid the flow is we see. Because that pond can either act it does act as a large detention feature in some senses, right? But, and then we have a fairly steep cut where this is. The channel itself is in a steep cut. So the question in my mind is, well, how often does it top over the upper part of the slope and reach the sort of the flatter parts of the site? I would imagine when it does do that, it's not rushing in the channel because now it's more laterally spread. So I don't think you're gonna see velocity in that kind of laterally spread water, more just horizontally spreading, slow-moving floodplain waters where the main movement is still contained within the channel or even the expanded V shape of the channel. And based on the statistics of the flooding, you know, it happens infrequently. I think the pictures, you know, and I'd be happy to hear from the neighborhood as well, but the pictures that have been shown, you know, it's not like this is a recurring theme on an annual basis. Otherwise, the channel would have a different shape, but it's infrequent with large storm events. The analysis that Bert shared was with 100-year storm event, statistically speaking. So, you know, I don't know if I can say much more than that because I don't have that direct observations, but I don't see indications on the site that we're looking at something that has rapid depth and velocity on the site, even during those peak conditions. You'll see water for sure, but, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it flashy.
Okay.
But, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that topic?
I know that there's a floodway on the plan, according to the FEMA maps. And that floodway is shown right here with this dark line, which is adjacent, actually extends into the river, but it extends back out into the site, right into this area. There can't be any work that's done within that floodway, so this is purposely kept out of the floodway.
The floodways are intending to show water that's moving horizontally, you know, with the water river direction.
Right, not a
As opposed to
velocity
just
zone.
water that's spreading out sideways laterally because the floodwaters are rising and the water's spread. Floodways is water that's moving, you know, with the stream channel downstream. So all the work's kept out of those areas.
Thanks.
Okay.
No questions.
I just have a lot of concerns about constructing single-family homes like this, allowing water to flood in. You're just opening yourself up to potentially a lot of destruction for these poor homeowners. And I'm gonna have a hard time voting for this, even though all your arguments say that you can't do this. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. So, that's just my position.
Chris?
Excuse me, we can't hear what anybody is saying. Can you speak up?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if the mics are picking it up
I don't think
enough.
it's on.
Just hold on one second, let me just see if she can adjust the volume. Can you turn the volume up? They say they can't hear us in the audience on our mics. Do they broadcast out? No? It's just capturing it here on the audio. Okay, all right, okay, thanks.
We'll just talk louder.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to speak up louder because this is just going to the town feed. Ken, why don't you?
I just have concerns about constructing these homes in the fashion that they're going to be doing, allowing floodwaters potentially to run in. And I just think it opens up a problem for the potential homeowners. And in good conscience, I don't know if I can vote for something like this. Even though that they say that they can't do this and the building department does allow it, I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
Chris?
Do we have altered plans with the tree removal and the plantings? I think that was something that we were talking about last month that I didn't see.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that. At the last meeting, there was a letter that was issued, and there was discussion about the open order, we've already talked about that, delineate the limit of work on the plans that has been shown on these revised plans. The erosion control is very close to the wetland, move it back. That's been moved back, it's shown on these plans. Replace the rain garden with a subsurface system. We talked about that at the last meeting. I also had a follow-up meeting with, I guess, the stormwater team from Shrewsbury. That was Vincent Ty and crew. They didn't have any issues with the rain garden. So that rain garden is still on this plan. Show the flood opening details, which we did add to this, as far as the actual detail of what the flood opening is. And then also, it was requested to add cleaning to the operation and maintenance plan. That has not been added yet, but hold on. Raise the garage elevation, and that was due to the understanding that it couldn't have water in it, but we know now that it can have water in it with the flood openings. Add the site preparation with limits of tree removal. That has been added to this plan set. Actually, I brought it with me. I'll flip open that page. That was on the 1/20/23 set. As far as a planting plan, I don't have a planting plan, though. There is no landscape architect on this one. Around the houses, we're just calling out for lawn area. Within the rain garden on the detail, it does have a variety of trees and shrubs that can be planted into the rain garden feature itself. And then there was some notes that were on the previous plan that shouldn't have been screened or grayed out, and those have been removed anyway, so that covers that. If you want, I'd be glad to open up that package there and show you the page 7 of this plan set to show the tree removal.
We have a copy of that?
Yeah, I just uploaded it to Google Drive.
Okay, I'm looking now, okay.
Yep.
That's fine, thanks. And then the other question is, I forgot the address, but the one that's more to the north, there was talk about moving the footings of the deck out of the 30-foot buffer. Did we see that on the new plan?
They're on piers.
Mm-hmm. But we were talking about moving the piers out of the 30-foot buffer.
They're right on okay. No, that has not been done.
Yeah, I think you'd mentioned that you could cantilever it.
Yeah, they're right on the line. So
Okay.
I could shift those over. I'll make a note for myself to shift those over another foot to get those out, but it can be cantilevered, yes.
No other
All
questions?
set. Just a couple thoughts. I'm not saying I'm for this yet, but if we were to issue an order of conditions for these two homes, my concern has always been storage beneath the building. So I would probably put a condition in the order that no openings in the foundation will be provided other than for the flood vents. So I'm not sure what your size flood vents were on the home. Do you Can you?
They'll have to be designed. I mean, when the house, the building plans are designed,
Okay.
those will have to be incorporated into that plan.
So this footprint is not locked down yet? Your footprint that you have in front of us?
I don't have an architectural plan. There's been no architectural plans associated with
But
that.
we're looking at a plan tonight with a footprint on a plot, which you're not gonna make it bigger.
No, he's got to stay to that footprint.
Yeah.
I just don't have a full architectural set of plans.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, you said it's based on the square inches per square foot of,
Yes,
and
yes,
I take it that would mean of square foot of the, footprint of that foundation.
yes.
So that's something you could calculate right now.
That's on the plan, actually, and it's stated on the plan.
Yeah, okay, but that's my question. How big are these flood vents then, dimensionally, roughly? You said it's so many inches per
Yeah.
square foot.
Give me 1 second, I'll pull out these plans, and it's
Yeah.
written right on the plan.
Okay.
But to answer your, I don't know if you were stating it as a question or not, but these are the house footprints that are intended to be built. This is-
That's what I was getting, I was
These
a
aren't
little
just
concerned that
placeholders.
this was in flux here, that.
Right,
Yeah,
No.
no, it has to be.
right.
Yeah, it has to be. And Scott, you see where I'm going with that? If I can limit access to that area under there, I know people aren't gonna use it for storage and take up the compensatory storage that, if you have something like a home on concrete piers, like, there's one somewhere in that area right now that's on piers. It's not on a concrete foundation. And I think you referenced the coastal areas too, where a lot of homes are elevated up on piers. You don't store a lot of stuff, valuable stuff, at least under that, because it's not secure. It's not a secure area. But in your case, where you're going with a full foundation, I just don't want people to treat it like the catch-all for all their equipment. And then when the floodwaters come in, that volume's taken up by all of the gear and stuff. So my thought is to limit the size of the openings in this foundation, so people aren't going to be bringing in, gas grills and motorcycles and you name it, to store it for the winter. And I could see one of these vents being large enough for access for a person to crawl in and do an inspection of the underside of the house, but that would be about it. It would be a person, on their belly slithering in through one of these vents every so many years to inspect it, but no, double door to go walking in underneath your basement. There'd be no need for it.
Well, I think, to that point, I don't think either the Wetland Protection Act or the Building Code prohibits storage of temporary items in floodplains. And I mean, it happens all over the place.
Just think of the logistics of that. It's temporary. The storm is here, it's flooding. What are the people going to do with their gear it's not temporary. This is stuff that they're storing on a permanent basis. It's their home. So they're using it. It should not be for the storage of anything.
So let's say.
It's stormwater. Store stormwater down there.
So let's say, for example, if it flooded to its maximum depth of 1.5 feet, for example.
Yep.
Then.
In the garage,
That's in the garage, yeah.
Right, well, under the house is how much?
it's 395 at the basement, not the basement, but the foundation elevation, the slab. So 3.5 feet.
So you could have potentially some shelving units up high, or, I mean, there's ways that things can happen above that elevation.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, the more you're talking about this, the more I'm falling out of favor with this whole thing. If this is compensatory storage, I want to see it compensatory storage. I don't want to see it for shelving and for people who's going to police this? Tell me the truth. Who's going to police that kind of activity? Are you going to be going down there on the contract
No.
to do a check to see, is the Concom going to be doing that?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
You
no,
got to be realistic about this.
You make a fair point.
You got to be realistic, but I just throw that out as a
No,
thought.
I
because
think it's a fair point.
I've been thinking about that. And the other question I have is, you do have compensatory storage, because now we're going to two houses. You're really squeezed for compensatory storage. So you've had to go across the brook, and you have that cut into the hillside with an engineered retaining wall. And again, I said, I'm not a fan of those, because 100 years from now, what's the status of that wall gonna be? We got walls failing around town now, all these little engineered walls. Slope's gonna slough off, the people are gonna be in that house. That's not my concern, doesn't have any effect on me. We've lost that compensatory storage. But my concern is, isn't there a town easement somewhere on this property?
There's a drainage easement on it.
Yeah, the brook is,
Yeah.
we have an easement for the brook.
But isn't there, beyond the limits of the brook, I'm just wondering, that compensatory storage, is that in the easement by any chance?
It doesn't appear so now, I think.
It's not-
I did send the plans of the easement, yeah.
Okay, so that is outside of the
Yeah.
easement. But, yeah, that's just the concern, that's another concern. We've maximized the build-out on this two parcels so much that we have to go across the brook and do an engineered wall. And I just don't see that being viable, years from now. It'll be beyond our lifetimes, but still, we're passing it down to the next generation, the problem. But, all right,
Can I answer your
Yep,
question?
sure.
You asked that question about, so the foundation area is 1,170 square feet. The flood vent opening area must be equal to or greater than 1,170 square inches. And then the bottom of the vent had to be at 395. So the foundation has to be 1,170 square inches in vent area. For the enclosed parking area, there's 550 square feet. Therefore, the flood vent openings must be equal to or greater than 550 square inches.
so it'll be up to you to determine how many vents you're gonna put in to meet those total square inches. I mean,
Yeah, and
you
the-
could do it with a few big ones, or you could do it with a number of smaller ones, correct?
Smaller ones, yeah. Actually, the vents themselves are 16 inches wide by 8 inches high.
16 by 8 inches?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all by
yeah.
inches.
And they can be doubled up, and then
Yep.
they can be quadrupled, but they're all relatively small.
So how do you access the space then? Is there a crawl space door or a walk?
There would have to be a door.
Or from inside?
There'd be a door from the inside, yeah, going
Okay.
downstairs
Okay.
into this. And there should be a door from the outside, an exterior door, too.
Okay.
Compensatory storage, you made a comment on that. I do have all the individual sheets that talk about the compensatory storage and what's being filled. And when we start looking at, the elevation, within the foundation itself, if we're down at the 395, it's only in this area where I actually have a garage where I'm filling in at the 395. And then the compensatory storage, this is only a small portion of the inside of this foundation, and maybe half to two-thirds of this foundation that's counted for compensatory storage at the 365, simply because we'd be cutting into a hillside. Once we get above the existing grade, I can't count that as compensatory storage, so I'm not counting that as compensatory storage. That has to be made up in other areas around the site. So once we start getting into the 396, there's no compensatory storage within these foundations at all. It's only at the 395 where we start to cut into the hillside. Follow that?
Yep.
So-
Well, you have to do the compensatory storage for every foot.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're
Foot,
locked
yeah.
into that.
Right, but it's not fair to, if you have a slope and you put a foundation wall in there, I can't count this area as compensatory storage. It exists today. It's not compensatory at all. So these reflect that. It's only when it starts to cut into a hillside where we can get that. And then once that's done, it's done. And so once we get higher, there is no compensatory storage within the foundation wall itself.
Okay. Andy?
No, I don't really, yeah, just the same concerns as you, as the storage of inside and what happens to that when it floods, so.
And about we were talking about the floor, whether it's gonna be, is this gonna be a concrete floor in the basement?
Yeah, I believe so, yes, yeah.
Okay. And does it get pitched at all to these vents to drain it in case water does come in? I mean, sloped,
It doesn't have to, it's, you know,
could be, then you got water backs in and then,
you could have some small ponding, I mean, they're not gonna create a flat
no,
floor as
but
it
then
is.
you got a house up above it and you got, this.
Could be designed that way, I mean, similar to a garage, you know, a garage has a small slope, even though
Yeah,
it
well, that's
feels
where I'm
flat.
going, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wanna see water sitting in puddles in a basement. I mean, you got living area up above.
Sure,
There's your
I
moisture,
agree.
there's moisture, and next
Yeah.
thing, you got the mold.
yeah. I agree, I'm not an architect on that
Yeah.
part of it. so.
I mean, this thing presents a whole host of new problems we've never had to delve into before. Alea,
What direction would the garage then be sloped if you want it sloped towards the driveway, but I imagine
It
the
would have to
flooding is
be-
coming from the back, so.
wherever the water, wherever the
Little-
water, the lowest
little deep
point.
in your
if you have
garage.
If you have a vent, that's the low point in the garage, it would have to go toward the vents, I would
Yeah.
think.
Okay,
Yeah,
but the the driveway slopes up to the garage, correct?
on the one on the right, so, I'm on Graylock Ave, the one on the right is sloping up to the garage.
Okay,
Okay, there's no flood fence associated with that one.
yeah,
The one on the left-hand side,
Mhm.
driveway is sloping down.
okay, so that slope can
Yeah,
just
so
kind of
there are
continue
flood
backwards,
fences. Yeah. there are
Okay.
flood fences.
so the water will continue to drain that way, cool.
But you're right, usually in a typical garage setup, you have it sloping toward the door.
Yeah,
And
Right.
this is not your typical setup, so
Yeah.
you could have water coming in the backside, and that would be a low point,
yeah.
and everything's gonna be
But
sloping to the
if
back.
for that one, it sounds like the garage or the driveway already slopes down, so you
Yeah.
just, it would be a little unusual, but it would be fine to have it continue
Anything,
sloping.
do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
No. One of the other things, if this thing were to get an order of conditions, we got concerns that we brought up in the last meeting about the storage of fuel oils, fertilizers, pesticides. And typically, where do they get stored? Well, usually in a shed or, in this case, a garage. So we would probably put conditions in there that there has to be some part of the architectural design that has shelving, I'm not gonna call it shelving, but let's say a storage area above the flood elevation that they can store their bags of fertilizer, the pesticides, their fuel oil cans and things. And also, we even talked about having, this would be the garage, a line painted around the wall of the garage where this maximum flood elevation is going to be. This is gonna help people who are gonna be buying into this to understand that this is potentially where they could see water if they buy this home. And it just emphasizes that you gotta keep stuff high and dry, and those are the kind of conditions you're gonna have to expect to,
I think those make perfectly
to see.
sense, for sure.
Yeah,
And let me also add too, that it was February 3rd, I had a meeting with Vincent Ty. And what came out of that is, we're gonna be updating the operation and maintenance manual as well as the long-term pollution prevention plan that has a signature line on there. So whoever the owner of the property is, that'll have to go with the owner.
that's correct, yeah, that's good, yep.
Yeah, and then also too, what was brought up is that there'll be no storage of hazardous chemicals within the garage or basement. All right, and they use the word basement in
Yeah.
there, but it's not gonna be a basement, as well as fertilizers too.
But where would you store it then? I mean, if you have that kind of wording there, I mean, then where's your option? We're not gonna put it in your living room.
Yeah, well, that is subject to flooding, so it goes to your point about.
So there we go with the elevated
Yeah.
storage area.
So would that stay with the deed? Is that how that would work? So a subsequent owner would see that as well?
I would love to see it on the deed.
Yeah.
So that when. you
Otherwise
know,
it
they
does
do
no
a
good.
transfer- Can you do that?
I don't know what
Nick?
We-
I didn't think so.
No.
We can specify, on the certificate of compliance, you can specify ongoing conditions, and that COC gets recorded with the deed.
Yeah,
So that is a mechanism to include
yeah.
that.
It's not gonna pass with title in a deed.
Louder, Jason.
It's not gonna pass with title in a deed.
Help me understand what you mean by that?
So you're not gonna put those restrictions in a deed.
Why can't, why can't you do that? If you go buy into a homeowners association,
It's the
they,
homeowners
well,
association.
they say you're subject to the rules and the regulations.
Correct. but
So
this is-
you
this
ha-
is
you-
a single-family house, single-family unit.
So why can't you write a deed that says this house?
You can try, but you're never gonna be able to restrict what people are gonna put in their house and what they're not.
You're not gonna be able to police it.
You're not gonna be able to restrict it either.
So you're saying you can put the wording in the deed, but that,
What's it gonna do?
I mean, the order of conditions is recorded with the deed, so as long as it's
I
in the
know.
order, that goes with the title, and it'll show up in a title.
And there is a spot in the COC to allow for ongoing conditions that can
Yeah, we can do it both
outlive
ways.
the order, and that gets recorded. So it's in the chain of title. Maybe not on the deed per se.
But it's,
Right,
it's
but
about educating the homeowners,
A
because
painted line in the garage, you can't regulate that.
Mhm.
If somebody's storing fertilizer in a basement, you can't regulate that. You can't regulate paint cans or fuel cans in a basement. Because nobody, when you're selling this house to the next person down the line, nobody's stepping into the house to say, oh, there's fuel cans in the basement.
So,
That doesn't show up on a title report.
so normally,
Shows up on a title report as conveyancing back and forth in orders of conditions, which are inapplicable to anything inside the house.
so what you're saying is the Conservation Commission can normally enforce that type of stuff, but they can't see it if it's inside the home. If it were outside
If
the
it were
home,
outside, subject to an order of conditions and continuing conditions, yes,
We can
that
enforce
can
it.
be regulated because we can see that. But there's no one on this board or any board in this town who's gonna be walking into somebody's house for a conveyance. So it's a pointless it's a pointless condition. Painted line in the garage.
well,
or
I just
stored
look
in
at the
basement.
fire prevention regulations, and they regulate where you can store flammable liquids. I mean,
Correct.
now, they don't go marching into everybody's house to check that they're storing flammable liquids in the proper location.
Correct. But once
But
your
the-
house catches on fire, your house is uninsurable because you've been storing flammable liquids in an inappropriate
Right, what I'm
place.
getting at, but they have that provision that says you can't do that. And I'm just saying, why can't we have the provision that says you can't do this? And granted, we're not gonna be walking into the houses to see that they're following it.
Oh, John, I don't
You know,
disagree with you.
but-
It's just a toothless tiger.
Yeah, well, I know, but it's better than
It is
nothing.
something that,
Yeah.
but it does nothing, right?
Yeah,
It's,
well.
I don't disagree with both you and what Ken said, there's a lot of problems with this.
Mm.
And they're not gonna be solved by a painted line on the garage or us
No,
saying,
so
hey,
many-
you can't store fertilizer in the basement.
Yeah,
It's either yes or no,
yeah.
right? It's, and it's nothing against your design. I just don't think, I personally just don't, I agree. I just don't think it's an appropriate use of this land in this sort of building.
I think one way to control it somewhat, some institutional controls would be to have nothing more than a 24 by 24 crawl space access.
Something
No
like
access
that,
from
yeah.
inside the house, no passenger door from outside the house, no garage doors. Obviously, in the garage, you can't do that, but
Literally, yeah, a crawl space that's only those vents. Nobody can get down there. and nobody
without
can
knowing
store
if there's
anything.
any HVAC in the basement or anything, if that's the plan, we can't really say, but.
Yeah. The last thing I want to see is this thing to flood with a 40-pound bag of fertilizer on the floor, go straight off to Lake Quinsigamon, and here we're spending money every year down the lake to fight weed control.
Yeah.
And here we just dump 40 pounds of nitrogen into Lake Quinsigamon from 2 homes, So those are the kind of things we're trying to prevent, All right. That takes care of questions from the commission right now. Let's go.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
May I ask
Sure.
the public, the neighbors who live in the area to talk about how quickly the stream floods and how often you see it flooding?
I have pictures from 2021,
Approach.
so 2021. I don't know if I showed the engineers here.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have my phone.
We have them, they're here.
Yeah, we got them last
We
time.
have them.
Uh,
We have them.
The old ones. Those are, Joy Buck had taken those from Sadler Ave. In 2021, we had a bunch of rain, like in the spring or something. And the brook on my side, which has all been dredged and, I've got the granite rocks.
Yeah, can you come to the microphone, because nobody's gonna hear this at home. We're gonna lose all your,
I believe it's 2021, it was springtime, there was a lot of rain, there was no snow melt, but the brook was right up to the top, on my side of with the stones, and it was almost overflowing, so it was smashing into the top of the cutout of the bridge, you know, the egress of the bridge. It was smashing on top there, but it did not flood my lower property. I don't know if it must have flooded, because you guys don't have the stones. The Corps of Engineers did not dredge the Bestigians' property. Where mine is, my brook is like 20 feet wide and like a big V, and all stones. So that, I've never had a flood over there, but because it's not dredged over there. It's just a straight, it's wide, but it's just straight and it's low. Because Dickie Bestigian, when he used to cut the grass there, he went over the brook on his lawnmower. So where my husband pulled him out, where if he had done that on my property, he would have fallen right in because of the rocks. So, I don't know if it flooded there. It's all overgrown, so I couldn't see. But I'm certain it did. I'm certain it went over, because again, it was at the top of mine. I have a little pump house, because I used to pump that water for my gardens, and it was right at the top. So you figure, it's a big V. I don't know, how deep is that brook on our side? Huh, 10 feet? Maybe 10 feet deep?
Upstream.
And it was right to the top of the brook.
Upstream.
So that brook is, I don't know, how deep is that brook on that property? How deep is
I mean,
that
the
brook?
water itself is shallow, it's below, less than a foot deep, maybe something like about a,
No, but I mean, how deep is it,
the ravine.
the ravine?
Well, that we'd have to, Bert can check the grades on it.
I'm sure you're right.
I do not think that the surveyors were extending the pole down into the
Okay.
into the water.
All right, because you were
to get-
walking the brook and putting blue.
It's like 3
Right,
feet
that-
deep.
that's where you're flagging, but I
So,
don't really see
don't know.
anything that would indicate like that,
Okay,
how deep it would be.
but I know that, you know, the brook flows down. There's a slight incline.
And,
So-
and when it comes up, over what period of time does it fill the ravine? Is it a couple of hours? Is
quickly.
it over a day?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I had woken up in the morning, it was like, holy cow. I took pictures of it, but tonight I left my phone at home,
Okay.
so. But it gets deep fast.
Okay.
Again, I mean, I know, there's a damper or some kind of controls up at the pond. But I don't think they control the flow, unless it's summertime and it's drought, or if there's too much water, but I don't know who controls that, or how often it's controlled, you know? I mean, normally the brook is running at a normal, height, but it can all of a sudden turn into a monster. It can. And you saw the pictures of the park. The land down there, it flooded. It's not flowing, as they said. The brook is flowing. The flooding is like an overflow of the brook. So that's standing water, where we get the herons in there. It becomes a pond. Everybody comes in, the birds go fishing in there. But it overflows, it flows over Sadler Ave, and it flows into the park, Graylock Park. And that all becomes flooded down there. It can be a dangerous situation.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, does anyone else in the public have any questions, comments on this hearing?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Taylor. I'm the owner of 38 Sadler Ave. I actually grew up on this property, and the adjacent properties have been in my family for probably over 100 years. As far as the brook and the flooding, from what I experience, is it happens very quickly in the waters, especially from kind of behind mine and my parents' property. It goes pretty fast and it rises pretty quickly. And then once you get down past into Greylock Park, it slows down a little bit. And usually, depending on the size of the storm, it might take days for the waters to kind of calm down. But I more so just had a question about the systems for the water draining into the homes and everything. Because I know we have like a lot of rat and mice populations and just nature debris. I don't know if those fill up kind of in these areas where you're having the water collected under the homes. And I also just wanted to ask, how far from the Sadler Ave home is the back of the house from the property line of 38 Sadler?
So the question about, through the chairman, the question about the rats and such, where were you going with that?
Oh, because I don't know what the system, I don't know the specifics of the systems that you were explaining about, kind of having the water come in.
So there'd be concrete foundations.
Yep.
Openings at the bottom of the elevation of them.
Mm.
In an extreme flood situation, this would happen very rarely, right? So we're north of the 50-year storm, to see water ever enter here, up to the 100-year storm. You could see a small amount of water enter in through these floodgates, fill this void space under the house, blocked in by concrete walls. As the water then receded, that flood water would exit. And,
Okay.
there wouldn't be water stored in there. They have to be at the low elevation. Perhaps there's a small pitch, on the concrete floor to ensure that there isn't puddling. But this is not an area that's, for leaves and sticks and,
Okay.
that kind
I
of
just
thing.
didn't know if there was
right?
like a filter in the void you were talking about. I was just thinking about like the animal populations and just the nature material. I didn't know if it was just like a place where the water went to collect or.
The actual vent itself stays closed.
Oh, okay.
You have a picture of it
I
in
do have a
here.
picture. I have a picture over here.
Yeah, so there's an opening to it that has a cover,
Yeah.
right? So during the times that it's not flooding, it's blocked for animal access.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be critters living down
It's
there.
not locked, it's a flap.
It's a flap.
Like a piece of paper like this. Water comes in, it goes like this, lets the water come in.
That's right.
Then it goes, water comes out, it goes the other way.
Oh.
And then when it's all done, it just stops.
That's
Hangs neutral.
Yeah, this is what it looks like.
Okay.
It's like stainless steel cover. One other aspect of it too, though, is when the floodwaters come up, that lifts a little bit in order to almost unlock itself so that it can swing in or it can swing out. When the floodwaters recede, then that drops back down into its channel. So that way there, it's staying put. It's not going to be a door for cats or dogs or any other.
Okay. I just didn't know like with the like storms if any small creatures could be taken with that.
It sets down so that it prevents that from happening.
Okay.
It's only until you get some of that buoyance that when the water starts coming up. And to answer your other question, it's about approximately 55 feet from this. You were asking about this house here to
Yeah.
38.
Yeah.
So the distance from that corner to that property line is approximately 55 feet.
Okay.
I don't have my scale with me, but
That's okay.
it's about that.
Thank you.
Do we, yes, go ahead. To the mic, please.
My question is, so for compensatory storage area, are you going to dig out a portion of that banking? That's man-made.
No,
There's stuff in there. It's man-made. So people disposed of stuff in that banking. Because my husband used to watch, right?
You mean the banking of
The
the channel,
banking,
the stream
the
channel
banking
itself?
on the other side
Mhm.
of the brook, okay, there was discussion about digging that out
Yes.
for compensatory storage area. A portion of that is man-made, so there was stuff put in there. It's not,
They should never put that in there.
it was, you know what, all the property was owned, the property's was in the family, and they did what they wanted to do. But that banking is man-made, that is on Melvin Ave, that abuts up into that area.
We're
So,
talking about this area right here.
I'm talking about the area that goes up the little hill, yeah,
Right here.
right. Because, Lisa, you had mentioned there was interest in purchasing some of that property, so. So do you have the right amount of land for compensatory storage?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other questions tonight? All right, I don't see any. So, how do you want to leave it tonight, Scott?
I mean, do you want to continue it or postpone?
Rashid's not here. He's the owner of this property.
Yeah, I know.
He's not here. I mean, he sort of has entrusted us to handle the
Yeah.
actions tonight. You know, I think, I mean, I don't know how to predetermine outcomes here, right? But if there's a taste for the commission to approve and issue an order of conditions, then certainly we'd seek to close the meeting and vote that way. If it seems as though there's concerns enough that it could get voted down, rather than having to go through the DEP appeal process, I would rather have an opportunity to provide more information. If there's seemingly information that is absent that would help in your decision-making.
Right.
So, however you'd like to play that, it's okay.
Well, my personal opinion is I think there's enough uncertainty tonight on the commission to vote an order.
Mm-hmm.
Probably gonna take some discussion amongst us to decide, can we condition this enough to issue an order? So if I was sitting on the other side of the table, I would probably lean toward going for a continuation.
And-
Rather than the risk of.
Which is certainly fine. Is there something missing in our analysis that would help alleviate any concerns or turn the tide for those who are uncomfortable with approving this?
I think, what I would want to see is a more firm answer on how that foundation is going to be designed for access. So if it's only going to have floodgates from the outside and with a door to get down to it from inside to do an inspection, I would present that to the commission at the next meeting and say, listen, this is what we're doing. There is no outside egress, so it's gonna limit what can be stored down there. And that would be one thing I would wanna see definitely. And I'm not sure if that's gonna be enough to get a favorable decision, but, we're just gonna have to present it to a vote.
Would you mind asking the other members of the commission if there's anything else they'd like to see?
Feel free to. I think you heard some of the concerns tonight.
For
So,
sure,
I mean,
no
you
question.
didn't hear, you got a lot of feedback.
Yeah,
so-
we're not gonna be able to redesign this project and not have flood watch under that house. I mean,
Yeah,
that option isn't available to us.
yeah. And maybe explore a little bit more about the way you can carry the restrictions on the storage of chemicals, and how we thrashed it around tonight about
Right.
could it go in the deed, or how does that get moved forward
Okay.
to the next owner? And I know the certificate of compliance in our order always stays with the deed, so anybody doing a search will have access to that information, but a lot of times that gets overlooked when they're doing property transfers. But if you can come up with anything better, let us know.
Okay.
And maybe that can help too. But
Mr. Chair, if I may, for me, a lot of the uncertainty hinges on on what the homeowner does, on the homeowner behavior. And the concern for what happens when the house is sold going forward is also important, because this is a resource that is in the floodplain and very, very close to Lake Quinsigamon, with very little in the way of mitigating situations to improve water quality before it hits the lake.
Right, could have a big impact if they don't
Yeah.
follow the way it was designed.
Yeah, to Martha's point, if this were a project that we could all see, then we could have some comfort with the steps they're taking. But I think because it's gonna be basically shrouded in a building, and we're not gonna be able to see what's going on,
Right,
makes it really hard to move forward with it.
right.
Who's to say that, 6 months after they sell the house, they don't block off those openings and close them, so they don't
No,
open,
no,
barricade
no.
them? I mean, you
No.
don't know, you can't control that.
No.
I mean, your design is probably fine, but you can't control what the homeowner's going to do.
I would echo that too. I mean, I don't have an issue with your design concept. I think it's admirable that you're trying to figure out a way to use this land, but you're never gonna be able to control the humans who own the house. And if they can store whatever they want down there, I mean, nobody's gonna stop that. No matter what we do, if we put it into a deed, into an order of conditions, and I think, like I said, it's a toothless tiger. It's not gonna matter.
Well, we've heard your concerns, and I appreciate the open dialogue, really. It's helped facilitate moving this along. So we'd like to request a continuation to, chew on these comments,
All right.
and we'll carry this conversation on, hopefully to a conclusion, not a draw, a conclusion, at the next meeting.
All right. Elias, the next meeting, March 21?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. This hearing will be continued until our next meeting, March 21.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Martha?
We have a new public hearing. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, that Dominic J. Esposito III, 128 South Quinsigamon Avenue, Shrewsbury, has filed a request for determination of applicability for the removal of trees and stumps at 128 South Quinsigamon Avenue. A public hearing will be held on the above notice at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening, February 21, 2023, in the Selectmen's Room at Shrewsbury Town Hall, 100 Maple Ave.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yep, I'm Dominic Esposito,
I'm Juliana Esposito.
and we are the owners at 128 South
Okay.
Quincy.
And you want to give us a little rundown on why you're taking these trees down and?
Sure. There's two major reasons. So the biggest reason was to have the trees assessed after we've been in this property for 5 years now. These trees have slowly been deteriorating, and over the past few months with some of the windstorms that we've had some loss of large limbs on a lot of these trees. These trees are well over 40, in some cases 50, beyond years old. So these trees are losing limbs. On top of that, they're also very close proximity to the retaining wall abutting Lake Quinsigamon. So we are working on the process of repairing the retaining wall that is eroded, fallen into the lake. But the process to repair that wall is going to require removing these trees and removing the stumps as well. So the root system of the trees, because of the fact that they're within, 5-foot range of the wall, the root system has completely infiltrated the wall itself and pushed the wall over.
There's a lot of erosion and a lot of rot in the trees as well.
What kind of trees are we talking about?
So we have 2 maple trees, and then we have 1 oak. So it's it's technically 3 trees, but the tree that's on the image of the left that I submitted to Lee on January 17th. So on the left side of the property, it's really one tree, it's
It's
really
like
one
split
stump,
off. Yeah.
but it's shaped in a V, so two trunks off of one stump.
Yeah. And there's a lot of rot at the bottom, and one stump is like facing the house, and we're worried that it's gonna fall into the house, and then the other one's gonna fall into the lake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're just worried about that.
Call
so-
that co-dominant trunk.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Just went through that in
Yep.
my own neighborhood.
And there was a
Well-
recent survey in the neighborhood for Asian longhorn beetles. None of the trees were deemed to have any sort of issues with beetles or anything of that sort.
And one of them's like completely rotted out. I don't know if you saw one of the pictures that we had presented.
Yeah,
It's
there's-
completely rotted out, like you could see a big hole, and it just goes all through the trunk and then up above. We took a lot of the pictures of like the limbs that have fallen over the course of like the last, like 4 years
Yeah.
that we've been there, so.
Yeah, we're talking large limbs,
Very,
large
very,
branches,
very
not
large.
just small twigs. These are
Yeah.
large branches.
We just had to pay a big sum of money to have something cleaned up from the last windstorm that we had, so.
Just on our plan, we have two little red rectangles.
Yep.
What do they represent? Is that the area where the trees are?
Those are the two, yeah, there's two trees above, and then there's the
So-
one that's kind of splitting off.
So the one on the north side, I take it, is that the two maples? Or
That is correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Then the one on the south is the oak with the.
The two,
Correct.
the two oaks.
Yeah, the two
Yep.
dominant, yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
that's correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't, I'm sorry, the pictures don't seem to have come through, so I didn't print
Oh.
them for you guys.
Sorry, we didn't
And I didn't
know that we needed
realize.
to print them, so we would've
Yeah.
printed them and presented them, but we don't have them.
I do have them on my phone if I can connect to one of these smart TVs if needed. Or I can also, just email,
send it.
I can email the
send it
board.
to, yeah, we
Yep.
could, you want us to just email it to you?
Just, can I email it to you, and that way you could show it on
Yeah.
screen if we wanted?
And our intention is to replant new trees as well on the opposing side of the property, well away from this retaining wall.
But you're talking about rebuilding the wall too, but that's something you're gonna have to come in front of the Concom with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
later on, we're doing it in stages.
That's beyond.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Martha, what, do you have some
Um,
questions?
No, it sounds like the trees are reaching the end of their lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's probably better to take them down, and if it's in conjunction with needing to repair the wall, that's fine. You said that you would replant. What kind of trees are you thinking about replanting with?
So just, I don't know at this
Yeah,
point,
we
but
don't
we
know
will, it's pretty much up to her, so.
makes me do
Whatever she
everything.
decides, so.
We don't know, we haven't gotten that far yet. We're just doing it in stages because of, budget constrictions and,
If there's
so,
certainly any type of species of trees that's favorable.
you
I would
recommend,
just ask
yeah.
that it be native species and not
Okay.
anything
okay,
exotic.
yeah, sure, no
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
I can connect an HDMI. Over here.
It's right there, Kale.
Oh, right there.
So do you have any recommendation for something like that close to the lake, or that kind of, it's probably sandy
It's-
soil, very
We
gravelly?
would, yeah, it's very rocky too. There's a lot of rocks in the soil there as well.
If oaks are amazing wildlife trees, and you already know that oaks have done well there, so if you're okay with acorns,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that
We
would
don't
be
mind
my
acorns.
suggestion.
You all set, Martha?
Mhm.
Jason?
Are you grinding the stumps? Are you leaving them?
The goal would be to grind the stumps, yes.
I'm all set.
Okay.
But when you said you were going to rebuild the wall, you need to remove them, so would you have to excavate them away, or?
At this time, with the goal would be to not disturb the soil whatsoever at this stage. It would simply be to remove those trees, pull as much of the stumps out without disturbing the soil, so we can allow the remainder of the root system and the remainder of the stump that we can't grind to deteriorate enough for us to be able to repair the wall by hand without machinery going forward. Planning stages would be next year when the drawdown happens.
Okay. All set. Chris?
No questions.
that rebuilding of the wall, what kind of wall is it right now?
It's loose stone.
Just a regular rubble wall?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you're gonna just do it in kind, just go in and repair, you're not gonna do a,
So all of it's pushed over.
Yeah.
The plan would be to just move, whatever soil's necessary that has pushed the wall over,
Right.
that's on the property, move that soil back.
pull it
So
back?
we can
Yeah.
restack the wall.
Okay,
There's
But
a
all the
lot of
stone's in
erosion,
good
yeah.
condition.
yep,
It's just tumbled over.
Yeah.
gotcha. Andy?
I'm all set, thank you.
Oh, yeah?
I'm all set.
Are we looking at pictures, or did we,
Do you need the pictures?
did you, what did you do?
I can connect my screen.
No, that's all right, I didn't know, I didn't wanna cut you off if you were putting pictures up.
As soon as he sends me the photo.
Okay, sorry.
They're waiting on us.
This is an
I mean, just
RDA.
re-forward that email to her. That has all the attachments that you originally sent.
I don't know why they didn't work the first time.
Oh, so when we sent them to you, you couldn't open them?
Yeah, they were being funky.
So try
It's
that.
all right, if it's not working, we're fine, I think,
Okay.
with this.
Okay.
All right, does anyone in the public have any questions or comments? All right, I don't hear any. Does someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we issue a negative determination for the removal of 3 trees as presented tonight at 128 South Quinsigamond Ave.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
So you get a negative determination, which is actually good. Means
Okay.
you don't have to file a notice of intent,
Okay, great.
okay?
Thank you.
Do we get anything in writing? Do we have to have anything?
I will send out
She
a
will-
determination of
she'll get it.
applicability to you.
All right,
In the
thank
mail.
you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Go ahead, Mark.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, that Sharon Weber and Brian Meacham, 4 Woodchuck Hill Road, Shrewsbury, have filed a request for determination of applicability for the removal of trees at 4 Woodchuck Hill Road. A public hearing will be held on the above notice at 7 PM on Tuesday evening, February 21, 2023, in the Selectmen's Room at Shrewsbury Town Hall, 100 Maple Ave.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Sharon Weber.
I'm Brian Meacham.
All right, why don't you tell us, this is another tree removal one, so explain why you would like to take them down?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts. One, we're putting in solar on the roof, and on that side of the house, there's a number of trees, about 12 or so, that would block the morning sun. And so these are relatively small, mostly swamp maples, a couple of yellow birches, beech trees that would allow for more sunlight to the eastern exposure. Separately, we just had a question. There's some trees along the fence line above the house that's right along the sidewalk, and it's, pushing up the sidewalk, pushing in the fence. We were just curious whether the town owns those or not, and whether that would be something that the town might want to, remove just as keep down maintenance. So that's kind of separate, but, we were advised to put both requests in together.
Overall, how many trees do you think there are? I see.
There's 12 in the back that would be in the area where it would be blocking the sun for the solar panels, for the PVs, and there's 3 along the street, if that's something that the town chooses to do, and there's 1 by an electrical box near the street that we just want to get out of the way near that telephone box. So 16, I think, is the total number.
Yep. The one complicating factor of this particular lot is the fact that's a perennial brook. And I know, did your house go in before 1996, was it? Do you know? It was after 1996?
2000, it was built, and we occupied 2001.
It was. It actually, you're basically in the inner riparian zone on a perennial brook, which has a lot of, actually a lot of I'm surprised that that house would have gone in then, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah, because the Riverfront Protection Act went into effect in 1996. And they basically put, you know, an inner riparian zone, which is from the brook out 100 feet. And that's like a no-build zone. And then 100 to 200 foot is a regulated zone. And you're not supposed to build, I think, 10%, more than 10% of the lot area in that second 100 feet. And I think your whole lot is within that 100 feet or close to it, right, of the brook.
Yeah, us and all our neighbors.
Yeah, oh, no, I understand that, yeah, I'm really
Could have been a
surprised.
lot before, could have been a lot.
Yeah, maybe that was it,
Probably
maybe the
was.
lot was established, they maybe established the lot prior to that, and although the home didn't get built till the 2000s,
Yeah.
that probably was the case.
Okay.
We have an order of conditions and from that time.
Yeah, and I think Ken's right, I think probably the lot was established prior. So, we got a lot of trees coming down, and they're in the inner riparian zone, so I'm gonna go right to Martha on this one, because she,
I'm not really comfortable with taking, I mean, I'll just say it. It's a lot of trees.
it is a lot.
And it's very, very close to the stream, and the trees are helping to manage the water and the erosion in that stream. And if you take them down, you're gonna lose that function, and it will impair the water quality, in my opinion. So I would not be in favor of all these trees coming down.
Yeah.
And solar is an admirable thing to do, but in some places it just doesn't work.
With these trees, if these trees didn't come down, how much of an impact does it have on the solar? Does it just, does it basically remove solar as an option for you, or?
No, we're gonna do it. It'll reduce the efficiency.
Efficiency.
We've already gone through the
Yeah, I
building
know.
department permits, so we were hoping to get more efficiency for better return, but, you know, we're doing the solar because it's important.
Yeah, no, we understand that, yeah. Jason, do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think solar's more important, so I would be in favor of doing it. I mean, I think, I'm not worried about the 12 trees.
All right.
But can we do that, though, even though it's in that repair, can we do that? Can we allow that?
Well,
those
right,
trees to be cut?
right now, this is new work, so I would.
I mean, it's technically not, it is subject to the regulation, so
So-
it should be an NOI, really, because it's a resource area, it's not a buffer.
But are we allowed to cut the trees and do that?
Yeah, even, is
in-
this is this an allowed activity now, that the house has been built? Is it, once the lot has been established, does that just take you out of Riverfront entirely?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we'd have to check some of the dates if we're gonna
Yeah.
go down the NOI path and see, but it sounds like, you know, taking them down, unless there's just a way to, like we did on Cherry Street, where we're just selectively thinning them, not cutting them down completely to let the sun through. You know?
That's what I was wondering, if we,
Well,
only
so
a few or just, or top them.
that wasn't thinning, that was topping.
I can remember what we, the Cherry Street, but I remember,
Yeah,
can't
yeah, I
just off the top
remember
of the
that,
tree off,
yeah.
so I don't know.
But what's the
That was only a
likelihood the tree's gonna survive when you top? I mean, to me, it sounds like that's a slow death for the tree.
It depends on the kind of tree. These are hardwoods,
Yep.
so they could regenerate. They could regenerate. So what we're talking about is not taking the trees completely down, but cutting them down to the point where they would no longer interfere with your roof line and the solar on your roof, but the trees themselves would remain alive and the root systems would function. And they would put out new growth, but at 15 feet instead of 30 feet. So they might look a little funny?
Yeah, we would consider it. We might leave the trees because the cost of having somebody come in with a crane to do that is maybe disproportionate to the benefit.
They would have to come in anyway with a crane, probably, right?
Well, we were just going to request that we would cut them, leave them in the swamp as natural, fallen trees. We weren't going to chop them or take them out or anything, so that was the request.
You might be able, if the trees are healthy, you might be able to get somebody to come in and climb them and cut them.
Yeah, that's possible, but I think, where the trees are and given the branches it would be impacting on the access to the roof, you wouldn't be able to be in the tree and cut. You'd need to be away from it to be safe.
Okay.
Just from my experience on the farm where I grew up. I wouldn't want to go up there to do that.
It's a nice little wooded area, though, with the way it is right now. I mean, it is, like you said, it has the habitat, it has the stabilization. Just, you hate to lose all that, too, and I know you're weighing it against getting a little more solar gain, but, it would be not great to lose them, I don't think.
That's why we were going to leave the very small trees to keep growing to replace. We were
Yeah.
selectively cutting the taller ones because we knew we didn't want to disrupt the whole
No, I know.
ecosystem.
I know. All right. Chris, did you comment?
Yeah,
Oh,
no
sorry.
other comments, yeah.
Andy, and anything, or Alea?
Is there a way to pick maybe not quite so many trees? Could you kind of pick and choose a little bit with the 12?
Instead of 12, just reduce the number.
Yeah.
You're saying go down to a little bit.
Pick the sunniest patch of
Yeah.
pick a patch that you want
Yeah.
a lot of solar on, and you'd get
Martha,
a
would
little
that be
more
an option?
efficiency, but
To,
also not, it'd be a
take a
little
couple out,
compromise for everybody.
Or, you see that as,
So I would want to know why you chose these particular trees, and do you feel that by cutting fewer of them, it would serve your purposes in maximizing or bumping up your solar efficiency?
Yeah, so probably looking at the maps on the first couple of pages, basically, given the sun angle movement from the winter through the summer, that's the only quadrant, a few degrees of area where the trees impact. So we weren't taking any, more towards the north or any more towards the south. So we identified only the ones that were tall enough to impact on the roof line, with, one exception of the yellow birch that's falling into our yard, which we were just gonna take down if we could anyway, because that is growing towards the roof, and in a few years, that'll be hazard to the roof. But the other ones, the swamp maples, the beeches, and I think there's one oak in there, are only the ones that are blocking that area that would impact that exposure from winter through early summer. During the summer, the sun gets high enough, it's not a problem. It's more the, fall through the spring, winter exposure, which is why that particular area. So I think,
it's
they're
both-
spaced far enough apart that cutting 3 of them over here wouldn't make a substantial difference to the 6 over there.
So you're not concerned about the leaf shadow, you're concerned about the wood shadow, shading?
It's a combination. It's the wood shadow in the winter, it's the leaf in the fall and the spring.
Okay.
The full bloom in the summer, because the sun, is higher in the sky, it's a relatively small impact.
so I'll leave it up to you. How would you like to address it, would you entertain a topping? Like, I heard you say that you probably wouldn't want to do that because of the potential you might have to get a crane in, or I know Martha's saying you could, so you wouldn't want to top.
We'd look at it, you know,
Okay.
but I'm thinking if the cost is, you know, several
Yeah.
$1,000s, then, you know, that's
Yeah.
$10,000 more. It's probably not worth it in terms of the solar benefit.
Did we
Right.
determine we don't need it in OI?
Right. And
I mean,
The
we
other
should
option-
really, it's a resource area, we should really have an NOI.
That's, before we go there, should we,
Yeah.
do we need an NOI?
Yeah,
Because it's basically in the water,
well, it's
close.
close, but, I mean, it's not,
I mean, I guess if we're just topping, I mean, it's
you're not,
probably
you're not actually disturbing
The ground.
the ground.
Okay.
In
Right.
this case, right,
Mhm.
I mean, going in an NOI route would be, unless you're going in for full tree removal.
Right. Okay.
I mean, if you were to do a topping, I wouldn't think you would want an NOI, but if you're going in for full tree removal and you're into stump grinding, and
Okay.
you got the water right there, you might want an NOI.
I agree with that.
Okay, would that make sense?
Yeah, I think we're just, yeah, if we're not pulling stumps,
All right.
not disturbing earth.
So here's what we could do. We could allow you, we could vote on a negative determination tonight if you were to agree to just top the trees, like Martha was recommending. But if you were going for a removal, which I don't think there's much favor on this commission to do a removal,
except for Jason.
except for Jason.
Solar's for the greater good. Make the trees, population.
Every commission needs a lawyer.
We weren't thinking removal in the sense of taking out the stumps.
Yeah, we
So
were just gonna leave the stumps.
Yeah, no, I know what you're getting at, but it's also very close, getting close to the water, and it would probably require a notice of intent, but then again, you may not even get a favorable decision from the board based on what, you know, people are saying tonight. So, I think the best outcome would be to top, if that's something you think economically you could justify the gain in solar versus topping.
Well, yeah, I mean, we would look at that. I would just ask if you have a height that, you know, you consider topping, because we asked 10 people, we'll get 10
I'll ask
answers. So.
Martha again.
I think it, I don't know what it matters to, you know, it's probably different for each tree. I think the way we did it at Cherry Street was we had gauged the height of the house and the height that the trees needed to be and give them, you know, 10 years to grow. And so the homeowner was going to keep them pruned at intervals to keep them from shading the house. So I think he was going to cut them maybe 5 feet below the roof line?
Yes.
That's what I was
Yep,
thinking too.
it was 5 feet below.
Yeah.
Not the peak.
So whatever
but
your
the-
roof line would be, that's what we would recommend.
So 5 feet below the lowest
Like the gutter,
eave.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
the
so
gutter line.
that's basically, yeah, above all the branches. Okay. So there wouldn't be much to grow back from.
There wouldn't
Just-
be much to go, Brett.
Because they're tall trees with very little branches at the top, so if we cut, you know, at the top of the
Be cutting the entire.
at the gutter line, we're basically taking off all the branch structure.
They will resprout
Okay,
the trunk. There
Okay.
are buds built into it.
okay. Yep, that's good.
I can show you maple tree on my property if you want.
No, no,
Does
no.
that?
I'm just checking because you know, to know if we would need to come back, you know, if we, you know, have a bunch of telephone poles, as long as that's okay.
All right, so would you like us to take a vote on that tonight?
Sure. Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion.
Make a motion, we issue a negative determination with the condition that the trees be topped 5 feet below the lowest lowest point of the roof.
The gutter line.
Gutter
just
line,
say
gutter line of the roof, there you go.
Okay.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Jason?
No discussion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'd had that other question about the trees. Are they the town's on the sidewalk?
No, it looks like they belong to the neighbor next door.
Okay.
They're behind the fence, so,
Yeah.
for the
One of
neighbors.
them
Well-
is behind the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them's on the sidewalk side. The other two are on the
Yeah, I was looking-
Neighbor on Old Brook.
side.
I mean,
Yeah,
historically, the town
I
doesn't
think
take
it's your
down
next,
healthy trees, so.
Until it's too late.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, Martha.
More paper.
Give me a second. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, that Nicholas Suter, 36 Old Brook Road, Shrewsbury, has filed a notice of intent for the construction of a retaining wall to stabilize and level the backyard lawn at 36 Old Brook Road. And it looks like this is from quite a while ago, December. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kate O'Donnell from Ecotech, representing Nicholas.
What's your name again?
Kate O'Donnell.
Kate.
Your plans on the Google Drive?
We're presenting a revised plan. I have some copies here for you guys. I think you guys have.
That's the old, this is the old plan?
This is October.
October 28th.
126.
I don't know if we received.
Did we get any new plans?
I don't,
Yeah, I said to bring 3 copies tonight, so.
we did. So
Yeah.
she'll have.
Oh, okay.
You just don't have the,
Thank you. Sorry.
The Google Drive will help you then.
well, I'll be in a split second.
Oh, thank you.
Good Lord, here we go again. Just gonna say, need my water. Stuck in there, okay. Stop talking.
Designed by others. Go ahead, Kate.
So the wetland areas on the site consist of a bordering vegetated wetland that's associated with a perennial stream, which is shown in pink and green on the plan up here, an A series and an R series on the plan in front of you guys. The perennial stream has an associated 200-foot riverfront area, and the majority of the property is located within that riverfront area. The northern portion of the property is developed with a single-family house, a paved driveway, and existing lawn. And the limit of the existing lawn is shown on the plan with the L flagging series in yellow up here. And the proposed work consists of leveling and lawn expansion with a border retaining wall. And so this revised version of the plan consists of a decrease in the square footage of the expansion of the lawn. And it's also been revised according to DEP and Andy and Aaliyah's comments to, particularly DEP commented that they thought the project should comply with the redevelopment regulations for riverfront area, which requires a 2-to-1 mitigation area. And so we're proposing a 1,458 square foot mitigation area on the slope between the proposed boulder retaining wall and the BVW. The slope as it currently exists is sparsely vegetated and contains invasive species, including Tartarian honeysuckle and multiflora rose shrubs, as well as bittersweet vines. And so the mitigation plan for the mitigation area is to remove these invasive species, as well as plant several native woody species, including 7 tree species at 15-foot spacing and 16 shrubs at 8-foot spacing. And so the removal of these invasives and the planting of the native species will result in an improvement to the existing condition of the riverfront area on the site, which is required by the redevelopment regulations. And lastly, we're showing a straw bale and silt fence erosion control barrier at the limit of work. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer them.
Yeah, just before we go to the questions, that restoration, you were talking about, where does it say on the plan what you're going to be doing there? Does it?
Yep, it's in the middle, so it goes.
I see where it says proposed riverfront restoration area, 1458 square feet.
Yep.
Protocol by Ecotech.
We emailed a protocol over.
Oh, so what you said there is in another document?
Yep, which we provided. It's a compliance analysis, so to make sure we
Mhm,
comply
there we
with
have it.
the redevelopment
Okay.
regs
Okay.
and the planting of the native species.
All right, okay. Martha?
Are those plants listed in that protocol?
Yes, so I believe it's red maple and red oak. I have it right here. Yep, 4 red maple, 3 red oak, and then 8 American hazelnut and 8 witch hazel.
Okay, thank you.
How high is this wall? Less than 4
It
foot.
was almost 10 feet, wasn't it last time, or 8
It's
feet?
8 feet at
8
its
feet.
tallest point.
So that wall, that design again is not on this drawing, it's by others, it says.
Correct, so they'll need a building permit for the 8-foot high wall, I believe, so that would be their purview.
But typically, you would do that before we close our hearing, correct, Ken? I think we've
Well,
had
wouldn't
that.
you want to see the design of the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd want to.
Are you in the process of doing that now with the,
I think, is the applicant here? Nick? Is that it? No? Okay. I am not aware. I can ask.
okay.
Should we, Andy, should we see the design of the wall before we approve this order? It says by others.
How big is it?
It's 8 feet, it's 8 feet at the,
So we need a building permit anyway, so we'll be signing off of it. It's part of Concom, so. I mean, it's kind of big, we usually would want to see it. I mean, it looks like a Versalock.
Well, it says boulders,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
designed by others.
Because it's usually on our plan, so that when we go out for a certificate of compliance, we know exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, historically, we have had the details.
Yeah.
Would probably be a good idea to have that, so we could
Okay.
approve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and it's gonna need a building permit anyway, so it's gonna have to be stamped.
Would you guys be willing to just make a condition that it be done?
Nah, I think you gotta get this plan revised to include it,
Or a separate?
or a separate plan attached to it, you know, whatever.
Okay.
But it would be a document we would carry out in the field, so when we do our certificate of compliance, we've got the whole set and we know what we're looking at.
Okay.
And that's probably gonna have to have a fence along the top too, to,
That is, on
do they,
the plan, yep.
Yeah.
is it on the plan?
Yeah, I'll need a guardrail,
Oh, okay.
it's so tall.
Martha, what else do you have on this?
I don't have anything. I think we're still trying to digest it.
Right,
So there's fill that's gonna be brought in, but
Yep.
overall, the lawn area is going to be decreased. The yard is gonna be brought up. The retaining wall is gonna hold that back, but then you're gonna lose the lawn behind it, or in front.
It's not lawn currently behind it, so the limit of the lawn is shown with the L.
Would you mind just showing?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Well, no, you can leave it up there so folks can see. I just want.
Just the color coding helps for, so the limit of lawn is the yellow. It'll be expanded to the retaining wall,
Okay.
and then here will be all planted. But right now, it's just a, like sparsely vegetated slope, but not lawn.
so, Jason?
So the homeowner's gonna bring in fill to go right up to the wall?
Yes.
Do we know how much?
It's less than a foot, because Let's see it. Oops, sorry. So there's the existing slope. And the top of wall is at 536.5. And the lawn here, the grade here is 537.5.
Okay.
So it'll be about a foot.
I'm all set.
Ken,
I'm all set.
Chris,
No questions.
Andy,
I'm all set at this time.
Leah?
I'm all set.
Yep. The one question I have, you probably don't have the answer for this. This is in the outer riparian zone.
Yes.
Did you do your percentages for how much disturbance this is?
So that's what DEP made a comment about. So we originally submitted the design in compliance with the standard riverfront development for, typically it's for undeveloped lots. But then DEP made a comment to submit a redesign in compliance with the redevelopment regs,
Yep.
which require the 2-to-1 ratio, so, of mitigation.
Of mitigation, so basically they don't restrict how much disturbance you
Correct,
you
because it's
have.
previously developed.
So
you can go
they're
up
just
to-
doing it, and that's why you're into the new vegetation, bringing back the native species.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, and it's interesting because over the years, I think this lot, it almost looks like this yard was expanded somewhat in the back from its initial construction.
Mhm.
If you go back on GIS, it looks like the the edge of woods was much closer to the back of the house.
Mhm.
And it looks like there was a lot of clearing of that already.
I'm not sure, it could have been a previous owner.
Yeah, it could have been a
Not aware of
previous owner
history.
too. Do you know how long this owner has had the house? No?
I'm not aware, I can get that information.
Yeah,
But one benefit to this is with the boulder retaining wall and the fence, it'll prevent any
it
more
is, yeah, it's a
creep.
bit of a restriction. All right, does anyone in the public have any questions or comments on this hearing? Yes,
Yeah, I'm
you gotta state your name and address again,
Brian Meacham, 4 Woodchuck Hill Road.
yeah,
We happen to be abutters,
right.
and I was just curious, based on the last discussion, because there's a lot of trees in that area, so would any trees be removed, or would the retaining wall be in where the trees are? Given that we couldn't do anything, I'm just a little curious as to the design and the limits in that area. Thank you.
Yep, so there are 2 trees proposed to be removed. I think the difference between this is we're in the outer riparian zone, so we're a lot farther away from the actual stream. But yeah, 2 trees are removed, but we are providing significant mitigation.
Okay. They're in that second, zone. You're in that first zone. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, I don't see any. You've got a little bit of work to do, so we.
Yep, so submit a building permit with the
Well,
design.
you need a wall design, whether you have a building
Right.
permit or not. At that point, you don't need the building permit actually, do they, Andy?
It will trigger a building permit.
It will trigger it.
Yeah, but
They-
we don't need it, yeah.
But we don't need it.
Just
We'll
want the
need the wall
design.
design that
It'll
you'll
be the same.
ultimately bring and get a building permit for.
Yeah, it'll be the same plan you'll submit for your building permit, so it's not like
Yeah,
it's extra
yeah.
work.
Yep,
If we needed any.
okay. And you gotta ask for a continuation.
Okay. We would like to continue to the
Okay.
next hearing.
Okay, this meeting will be continued until our next meeting, which is March 21st,
Thank you.
2023. Okay, thanks. All right, Martha.
We have a new public hearing regarding a notice of intent. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of general laws, chapter 131, section 40, that the United States Department of Labor, 2101 Wilson Boulevard, Suite 400, Arlington, Virginia, has filed a notice of intent for the construction of a driveway, parking lot, and stormwater management system to serve the Grafton Job Corps Center at 295 Green Street, Shrewsbury, or also 100 Pine Street, Grafton. A public hearing will be held on the above notice at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening, February 21, 2023, in the Selectmen's Room at Shrewsbury Town Hall, 100 Maple Avenue.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Norman Hill. I'm with a consulting firm of Land Planning. I'm a licensed civil engineer and a licensed land surveyor. And with me tonight is Jeff Harrison. He's with Vivid Design. He's flown in from Washington, state of Washington today. He'll be here to answer any questions you may have about this project. Is anyone here interested in this project? Have you come to view this? No? Okay, I just want to make sure everyone can see what I'm about to show you. So I'd like to go over the existing site. So this is Green Street. This is currently mostly a field. It's been used for parking for many years. There's an existing guardhouse here and an existing driveway here, existing buildings here for the Grafton Job Corps. So people can come in this driveway now, there's a gate, the guard will stop you, and then you have to park here and walk into the site. So that's what's there now. This is pretty much an open field, the guardhouse, and that driveway is already built. So what they're proposing to do is put a new driveway here, keep this driveway, add a second driveway here, put a parking lot here and here. Now, there's a seasonal brook that comes through this site now. It goes off the hill across the street, goes under an existing pipe, and goes down a seasonal brook here. It becomes a perennial stream further down, but it's a seasonal stream now. So there's no riverfront, resource area on this site. So, but we do have wetlands. There are wetlands across the street within 100 feet, and there are wetlands out back. Where the driveway and parking lot are proposed, it's very flat, but it does come uphill to the road gradually, but it drops off steeply and back to the wetland. So basically, you're coming downhill, then you're going flat, and you're going downhill steeply to the wetland. So that's the existing site. So overall, it's about an acre of land that they're gonna be working on. All the parking lot's gonna be surrounded by a berm. So when it rains, the water's gonna be contained on the parking lot. It's gonna go to the catch basins. We proposed 4 catch basins on site. The catch basins will catch all the water that hits this pavement. And then the water goes through a Barracuda S4, which takes out 80% of your suspended solids. Then it's gonna go into an infiltration system that's under the parking lot. Most of the water will leach into the ground, and then it will overflow to an underground detention basin. And then whenever, like during a 100-year storm, you'll have some spit out the outlet pipe towards the wetland out back. Now, the stormwater system has been approved by the stormwater team in Shrewsbury. DEP has issued a file number. They had no comments on the project. The entire site, to protect the wetlands, is going to be surrounded with siltation controls. The siltation controls will go in at the top of the slope, up on the flat spot, so there'll be no erosion coming off that flat spot towards the wetlands out back. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, before we get into the questions, Norman, the brook there, can you clarify that a bit more? It says Assabet River.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
Assabet River actually starts up above on this hill, this little pond.
yeah,
It comes down here during a rainstorm and during a snow melt. It flows seasonally through here.
yeah. But doesn't the Assabet River, the true Assabet River, flow out towards
It
Sudbury?
doesn't become yeah, that's the same Assabet River. It doesn't
This,
become a river, however,
Yeah.
until it's about a half a mile further downhill from the site. So it's not enough of a tributary here for that to run perennially. So if you look at the USGS map, you'll see this is a dash. You get down about a half a mile, it becomes a solid blue line.
Okay, so that's determined off USGS that it's intermittent then?
Yeah, so if you look at the stream stats too,
Yeah.
there's not enough flow here to classify it as a
Okay,
perennial stream.
all right, okay. Martha?
That stream is presently encased in the
Yeah, there's a
existing conditions?
24-inch diameter concrete pipe that runs under this site. This site has been used for many years. I believe there were buildings here at one time, and then parking here, but this pipe's been, I don't know when that pipe was put in, a long time ago, maybe 60, 70 years ago. Yeah. We have cambered the pipe, we've sent a camera down through the pipe. The pipe is still like new inside.
In many places, we're talking about freeing the streams from their casings and daylighting them.
I know,
So it's,
yeah,
I'll just say that.
yeah.
That's all I have for now.
Jason?
No comments, no questions.
Ken?
I just don't see where your erosion control is. I don't
Yes,
see it on the plan.
It's a dash, it's a dash, 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 it's on sheet, forget what number.
104.
104?
Next one down
Right here.
there, huh? There it is.
Yes, on 104, you'll see these little black dashes, so from starting at the
Okay.
road, all the way down that side, north side, and all the way around at the top of the slope, all the way over to here, and then with one outlet pipe, we're going down the hill to surround that outlet pipe.
All set?
And it's all paved? This will all be paved?
Right now, it's not paved,
But
but it would be paved, this whole driveway and parking area would be paved.
and when would the work begin?
I'm sorry?
When would the work begin?
He'd like to start right away.
April.
April, yeah.
So, Chris?
I heard Martha say, where would you be storing snow?
We don't have any designated snow storage areas, but you've got this island in between, you can pile of snow up in the island in between. This will all be grass in here, and you can pile it here, and here, and here. I wouldn't there's really no room to put it here, because you're pushing it right over the bank. But this side, over here, and then the island up here.
Okay. And then I have concerns about the equipment on top of a pipe. I'm not sure how far down this pipe, this 24-inch diameter
It's
pipe
quite
is.
deep, it's quite
Okay.
deep. Because it's meeting the slope at the bottom of the hill here.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to the top here, it's about 12 feet deep at this point. Then 10, then 9, then 8, 6, 5, 4, it gets down about 2 or 3 feet deep across the street.
Okay.
And it's a concrete steel reinforced pipe.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Andy?
Just a couple of things. Do you have the green cards? I forgot to ask at the beginning of the meeting, or the
We
notification to abutters.
submitted the notices to all the abutters with the NOI. And we had to notify within 300 feet people in Westboro, Grafton, and Shrewsbury. So it was quite a chore. But in with the notice, we sent you copies of those.
This is the abutters list,
Yeah, there's three,
Yeah, but
actually
you have-
3 abutters lists, one from each town.
but you have the certified mailings to say you actually sent them out?
You see the cards are in there.
That's what I was just looking for, so.
There's a photocopy of each of the,
All right.
each of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other question? Do you know who owns the pipe? Because it's obviously costs us town property. We don't
Well,
believe there's an
it's-
easement for it.
It's state property, so the government, the public, us. Yeah, it's all public property.
Yeah, and I think the other comment we had is we would prefer to tie, if it's owned by everybody, then we prefer to tie the storm drainage into that as opposed to having a new point source discharge, that close to the edge of the wetlands.
Yeah, I saw that comment from your engineer. He said, would you consider connecting the outlet here to this existing discharge pipe? He said, would you consider it? We could consider it. I probably wouldn't tie into that old pipe, probably come over next to it, put a new pipe next to it, and redo that head wall and two outlet pipes at that head wall. Probably move that head wall a little further down the hill and put riprap, but that would delay us. I mean, my chief engineer's on vacation for the next 2 weeks, and it's probably a good week's work to change all the plans, and then we have to go back to stormwater. He's not gonna make his April start date if you ask us to change that. This is gonna delay it a couple months. I'm not even sure if it's a good idea either, because this pipe is taking all the water from across the street, and it's been sized for that purpose. So if we take our water and dump it into that, I'd have to analyze to see if the pipe's actually big enough to take the additional flow.
Yeah, because
So
your peak would be coming at a different time from that storm drain.
I'm sorry?
Your peak flow through the existing pipe would be different from what you're discharging it at. The existing outlet's only, 10 feet from the wetland. So
Yes.
We were just trying to see if there's a way to eliminate one of them.
We would probably have to redo the head wall, and that's right on the edge of the river. I'd rather, or the seasonal brook, I'd rather not go there. I'd rather just keep it as designed.
Recharge the wetland, the way it's being done here.
I mean, the engineer did say you must. He said, please consider it, and I thought about that the last couple of days, and I think it'd be a lot of work and really not much gain.
Screw that all up. Yeah, it's almost better to leave it there, I think. Might be okay to leave it there, Andy, just,
Just a suggestion.
no, just, I'm just thinking, it's another way, I mean, it's going to the wetland area, it's another way to infiltrate it rather than to put it into the brook, right into the brook.
I know, we've got riprap and a nice spreader there to
If you can spread it
slow
out,
it down.
you lessen any kind of, peak flow in that brook too,
And not much is gonna come out of that pipe because of the infiltration system.
no, it's right, it's what doesn't get infiltrated. Yeah. Anything else, Andy?
No, that was, on that, no, we didn't have any big comments, so.
Alea?
Did you want to set up any, something specific for the snow storage, just so it's not whoever's plowing that day and where they decide to plop it, and whatever else is gross and in it?
Pretty self-explanatory.
It's a pretty big area, open area.
I guess what we're trying to avoid is having them push it off.
It's a
over the curb.
pretty open area down there, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, for we're talking snow storage. It's not like you don't have open areas to push snow off into.
No, it's all open around the upper side
Yep,
and all around this side. And then here it's all open as well. You can see the tree lines back.
Right.
Up there. We're back from the top of the slope there. It's only from here to here.
right. Is there a guard, there's no guard, you said it was curbed, but is there a guardrail at all?
No, we're not proposing a guardrail here, no.
So if a guy was pushing a plow up against it, he could lift it and push it out a little bit, or?
He could. But just cast it to the right as he drove down the driveway, just cast it.
Yeah.
We want to avoid putting snow into the wetland. That's the goal.
Oh, I get you, Martha, yeah. So, with that being said, where would you like to limit it to, Martha, that we could maybe designate an area to put in the order? And see if,
I would say wherever there's an open grassy or even are there any gravel areas?
I'm sorry?
Will there be any gravel areas?
No. Well,
Okay.
this will be all grass here. It'll all be grass all around. Just that this will be paved There won't be any gravel surfaces left, no.
We designate a part of the parking to be snow storage?
You could, but
Depends, yeah.
I'm not sure what their parking needs are, you know?
Yeah, it would depend on zoning if they need it for parking.
Right.
I mean, even if you push snow off onto that embankment that's going down to the wetland, would that still be bad to, you don't think it would infiltrate enough into the ground? I mean, they're obviously not gonna push it straight into the wetland, because that's a steep slope.
I would be concerned that whatever was in that snow
Yep,
could get washed into the wetland through any storms.
okay.
Rains.
So that really,
Typically, when we have a,
yeah.
you know, a
What the
parking
laydown
area like
area?
this, we provide for snow storage
Yeah.
as part of the plans.
The area that you guys are designated as a laydown area, what is gonna be, that gonna be when it's done? Just grass?
Yes.
Put the snow there.
That could put snow there then.
The snow should go there then.
Because it looks like there's a break in the curb,
Mhm.
so.
Where's that, where's that?
So if you're looking at image,
104?
Right in here.
yeah, 105,
Right in.
that's the laydown area.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect.
Part of the park.
And then if it's falling anyway.
We'll put that down.
Yeah.
That'd be a great place to drop out some sediment
Yeah.
and
So
stuff.
where would it be? I mean, this is the street, you could put it here. I mean, this, Chris, where's this laydown area when you look at the final?
If you're looking at
Because here's Pine Street, I mean, you don't
It's
have.
right here. Right here, sorry, right here.
Well, that's where Martha's talking, here's the wetland, she was saying,
it's on
that's
the-
why I was saying, could you put it anywhere?
Do you have 104 open, John, or was it?
103 shows it
If you flip to
better.
the next page, you can see it says.
Yeah, he's still concerned.
Right there?
Yeah, oh, I see it, yeah, where it says
Out
laydown.
there, this is a break in the curb, so they could just come in and push it right into that area.
All right, all right.
And it's
It's about the
upgraded,
only area that's flat, that's
Yeah.
not directly on the slope. Is that okay, Martha?
Yeah.
and it's
all right.
upgrading the drainage too, so.
Yep.
Yeah, the drain's right there.
So we're gonna designate that laydown area, Norman, on 104. It's just across from the guard shack. If you go, you got the Welcome Center, I guess that's the guard shack. It says laydown area just before the slope into the wetland. Is that the,
Yep.
You could designate that for snow.
Yeah.
storage.
yeah, we'll do that. We'll call that as your. Now, are you the contractor or are you the Job Corps?
I'm actually the designer of record for the Department of Labor.
Okay. So
So
you
I'm
actually
architect.
you work for them?
Architect by trade. No,
Oh, no, you're a contractor for them?
no.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so with that being said, and I'll do one last question. Your infiltration piping network, how are you going to, I see a couple, looks like inspection ports, Norman, is that,
Yes,
there's 4 of them, right?
yes.
Now, how do you clean it? If you find that you're starting to accumulate a lot of sand, and it shouldn't because of your catch basins removing it, but what are you actually inspecting for at that point?
Well, you want to be sure the water's leaching into the ground, so you're checking to make sure the water table's not high. You don't want the water backing up.
What kind of control do you have? I mean, what, so groundwater, so let's say water's high, what's your next step? What do you do?
Try to figure out what's going wrong, what's blocked, what's keeping the water from going into the ground,
Okay.
you know?
So, I mean, and then how would you address that, though? I mean,
Well, you could put a camera down, or you could put a probe down,
Yeah.
take samples and see if the bottom's getting clogged with silt, what's going on.
right.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, the only way to rectify that is to
Dig it up,
dig it up.
dig it up. Yeah.
So that's really there just for worst-case scenario. It's not there for any maintenance type of purpose. Is there any way, some of these infiltration things, they've had access ports on each line that they can put a vac suction hose on, and in case debris starts to get down there, they just run a vector, and,
We have an access manhole at either end, but you're only gonna reach the middle.
yeah,
two
I know,
pipes.
you're not gonna get the whole network with that
No.
by any means.
No.
All right,
But there's a Barracuda before this. That
I
takes
know.
out
I know,
most of the suspended solids.
yeah.
And that's to be inspected quarterly and cleaned annually, so it's in the stormwater management report.
Okay, that's the one that's gonna be approved by the town, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. All right, again, anyone in the public, questions or comments? Don't see any. Are we happy to close the hearing? Everybody, Chris?
Yes.
Yep. All right, we'll close the hearing, Norman.
Thank you.
Okay, you're
Thank
welcome.
you very much. Everybody stay well. Thank you.
All right, we had another item on our agenda. I will read it, but it is going to be postponed. We are not gonna open it tonight. It was to be a new public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by Plug Power, 968 Albany Shaker Road, Latham, New York, for the construction and installation of hydrogen storage and compression system pad and associated tree removal and site work at 42 to 44 Bodwich Drive. Again, that is going to be postponed till our next meeting, which is March 21, 2023. What do you want to do? Do the orders of conditions? We only
Yeah.
have one right now,
Yeah, let's
right?
do that.
It's this last one, basically, right, Ken?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for the construction of a parking lot and stormwater management at 295 Green Street, or, I don't know what the other address was,
It's Pine Street
100 Pine,
or 100 Pine Street,
Grafton.
as presented.
with the condition for snow.
Snow storage as shown in the laydown area on sheet 104.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We've done our RDAs, so we're moving on now for enforcement orders. Do you want to give us an update, Alea, on?
I did not get a chance to take a look at, the top three. I did issue one for 23 Bayview Drive. They had submitted permits for, redoing the roof. And, I guess in doing that, found that there was more work to be done throughout the house, so just kept going down. And there was no erosion control in place. It's 23 Bayview Drive, abuts, Lake Quinsigamond in Edgemere Village. So
That's 23 Bayview?
23 Bayview. So an enforcement order was issued to add some erosion control, cease work on the property until that was in place, and submit an NOI application, because it seems like more work needs to be done.
Okay,
The building inspector also issued a cease and desist.
Yes.
okay.
Several departments,
File NOI. All right.
multi-pronged approach.
Do you have, how about the certificates of compliance? Do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have 4 to issue this month. 935 Main Street is still, has not resolved their work on their property for their drainage basins. So I think it was just a carryover from last month. I might take it off next month because it doesn't, and we'll talk to them a little bit about.
Didn't we have them in to discuss this?
Did we?
No, we had one of the trustees was here last month, just asking about it.
The trustees
And
are
we're,
still here.
so,
They
isn't-
haven't done anything.
Yeah, so when we did the site walk for the site plan approval, we picked up a number of items that needed addressing, and as far as we know, it's not been addressed, so planning board hasn't signed off.
okay.
And I don't know that we've released a bond. I'll have to
That
double
was just,
check.
there's still a bond in place, right?
There's a bond, yeah, and then while we were doing the site walk, I'm like, you should probably submit your certificate of compliance, assuming that the stuff would be done, but, because obviously,
And who is the developer?
it's Finicasa.
So does, and he knows that this needs to
He
be
lives on
done?
the site, yeah.
Okay.
Did you actually go to planning board and talk to them about the bond on?
No, I was gonna, I don't really know what the process is, but.
Yeah, because I think last month we explained that we don't.
Yeah, it would be
We
through
don't have
planning.
the bond for that project, but I think planning board requires it. You know, Nick-
Wouldn't they require a certificate of compliance before releasing the bond?
You know, I would say if I were on the planning board, I would, but I'm not on it, so I can't say that they could, there's nothing written in stone that they have to have a certificate of compliance, because that's that clears them off the Concom order. But that would make sense, that they would do that.
So
But-
what can these people,
Yeah.
what can the residents do? Who can they talk to?
It would have to go through planning board, because they still hold the
So
special permit.
should they contact somebody?
I'd recommend you reach out to Chris McGonigal.
Was that?
Chris, the Director of Planning,
Okay.
and he would probably be able to.
And you could get on their agenda probably if you talk to them early enough for their next meeting to discuss your concerns.
Okay.
And, you'll have the whole board in front of you and they can hear you out and tell you what they're gonna do,
Okay, thanks.
okay?
But we still will not be issuing a certificate of compliance for that tonight, just to confirm that.
But, I mean, the concern is that if the bond is released, then what does he care at that point,
Because the order of conditions is a lien on the property, so most title companies won't, and no one will be able to sell a unit with the order of conditions still there. That's usually what happens. We get a phone call saying, there's still an open order and we're trying to close next week.
I mean, where I lived before, they never issued it, they just walked away.
Mhm.
Nobody cares, they've sold. An attorney might look into it, but most of them don't care. So, but, okay.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
you're welcome. So did you say you had 3 certificates that?
I actually have 4 certificates, for somehow one didn't make it on here, but I did check them today. It was 20 Bay Road, the DEP filing number was 285-1591, and they, demolished the house, moved it back away from the edge of the thing, and have rebuilt a new home. I didn't find any problems when I was reviewing the site today.
We need one more.
Okay, so are we
I
signing
have,
these?
it's in there. Oh, is there only 3 in there?
There's only 3 here, yeah.
Well, who's not in there? Oh, and then, gosh, I'm sorry, the certificates of compliance are just a muck this month. 280 South Quinsigamond was actually, that was the superseding
superseding,
order of conditions. So that got bumped up to
So
DEP,
yeah, 3.
when we issued a denial to them. So we just got notification this month that they would like a COC issued by DEP. So I wanted to notify you guys that they would like one. So they issued an RCOC.
So we have-
It is out of our hands, but
Yep.
as
So
to
we have
whether or not
34
it gets
Cherry
issued.
Street, 16 Old Brook Road, and 20 Bay Road
Yes.
that we're recommending.
Okay.
There it is. Conditions. wanna do your order conditions too now?
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. And then we actually got a request last week to do an extension on order conditions, but we didn't put it on the agenda, but for 257 Gulf Street.
Are they bumping up against the time limit on that?
Yeah, they were getting close, so I'm like, just put in the request, so.
We're gonna sign that tonight, or?
If you could, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's,
so we'd have to take a vote on that.
yeah.
What's the reason for the?
They're just not quite finished the work yet, so.
All right.
Only wanna extend it just in case.
That's 257 Gold.
Yep.
How many years are they looking for on that?
I was gonna give them 2 years, so. They're almost done.
Is that the extension request, Ken?
Mm-hmm.
You wanna make a motion on that? We usually vote these in to do it, let's see here. Extension request, 257 Gulf, this day can be no more than 3. But you were gonna give them 2.
I think, yeah, 'cause they said they're almost done, so I think 2
All
is
right.
plenty.
So let's do it for 2.
Make a motion, we issue an extension on the order of conditions at 257 Gulf Street for a period of 2 years.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Don't see any? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night. What is that extension order for? Which,
257 Gulf.
what is the, filing number?
Ooh, I don't have it on my head, so I'm just it's just they have to get it in before that expires. Okay, there's your- All right. Here's your-
All right,
That's it for decisions.
yep. Moving on, conflict of interest certifications, apparently,
You gotta redo them all, yeah.
we all have to
I did mine.
take
Yeah.
the exam again, even though we might have done it last year.
Yeah, so what the state's changed it now, so it's all done online, so we don't have to print out that piece of paper and give it to the clerk, so they can go in there and check it automatically. So even if you did it last year, that's still asking you to do it again.
And once we do it this year, it's good for 2 years.
It'll be good for 2 years, and then
All
I'm
right.
assuming it'll be online moving forward after that, so.
All
You don't need
right.
to send it, once you've submitted it, it should automatically notify the state, so.
All right,
I mean, I would print a copy of it just for your own record, just in case, but.
okay. And
And when do you get notified of it?
We got
We
it,
don't, sorry.
oh, we don't, I think they
You
can just,
know.
the state can go on and the clerk can go on and check it to see if it was done. 'Cause we got a nudge, because I think we got it last month to do them all. Obviously, all the staff had to do them all too, so.
I'm good.
I
Okay.
did mine.
It's a little easier than the last time though, because it's like, you don't have to do all the questions, it's just, I think it's like 3 sections, it's probably about half an hour, I think.
Yeah.
You'll never get back.
Where's the link to do this?
And we can send it to you again.
Yeah.
Please do. I'm a walking conflict of interest.
Yeah,
As long as you send
the
it.
lawyers, they got an extra, a special one for you
Oh,
guys.
yes, they do. Believe me, they do.
All right, let's take the last item right now, and then we'll get into the bylaw review.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Martha, we're going to talk about what, 443 Lake Street, 457 Lake Street, and 104 Grove Street in the Community Preservation Act.
Yes, so I am the commission's designated representative to the Community Preservation Committee. And we got what we call an out-of-season application, or no, we don't have it yet, but we will. Basically, these 3 lots that were mentioned, 443 and 457 Lake Street and 104 Grove Street, they all abut each other. They're part of a former farm at the corner of Grove Street and Lake Street. On the other side of Lake Street, just to put it in context, is Lake Street Park and the Scandinavian Athletic Club. There's a power line that runs diagonally from Grove Street over to Lake Street and then on to Oak Street. These lots are coming up for sale. The town is looking at purchasing them. They would, as designated open space. They provide the opportunity for a trail to go essentially from town-owned conservation land at Camp Wanigan all the way over to Lake Street Park. It's rather a convoluted process, but there are some easements and some streets and then this property. And so the town is looking to cover the purchase price through some town infrastructure funding, and half of that would also come from the Community Preservation Act. So the Board of Selectmen last week at their meeting voted to put forward an application to the Community Preservation Committee for the purpose of asking for town meeting to allocate these funds towards the purchase of these properties. So they will, if this goes through, they will be designated open space, and they will, in all likelihood, be held by this commission.
So by having that designation, they could not be used for other municipal purposes, or that's a more restrictive use?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a nice little pond
Mhm.
on the property. There's some nice fields. There's beautiful old stone wall, a few mature trees, and it is right across the street from Lake Park. Lake Street Park.
Sounds good. How much, Martha? What's the price on this?
The price is in the 800,000s for about is it 6 acres? I think it's 6 acres. I added that up. Maybe it's 2.6. I'm sorry, I don't have the number in my head.
Yeah, it's in that ballpark, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, somewhere around
yeah.
there. Okay. All right.
So this would be the first open space, if this is successful, it would be the first open space that the town would be acquiring through the Community Preservation Act.
Very good. Very good.
So the process is, we don't have to vote on it at all.
No.
It will just be,
The
if it is acquired through, it's gonna be a town meeting vote, I take it.
Correct.
Yeah, it'll be one of, I
May.
think,
It will be
7
in the,
warrants that are on for CPC funding.
yeah. There are a number of other projects coming
Yeah.
up, and then this one to be added onto it. So it will be, the CPC will discuss it, if the application comes through, we'll discuss it at our March 6th meeting, which would be in time to get it on the town warrant.
Good. Well, that's good news.
Mhm.
All right. So, are you ready for the bylaw review?
I'm ready for the bylaw.
At last.
Last, huh?
All right. Has everybody had a chance to look at what's a 3-page bylaw right now? And do we all have the same one, Alea? It's off the Google?
That was the most up-to-date one, yep. that
The
you
one,
received.
I got the hard
Give it
copy.
Yeah,
of
the
that.
one that's highlighted at the top, and I think it's.
Yeah,
a couple
it
of
doesn't
dates.
have a date on it, that's why I was just
Yeah, that's, well, it would,
wondering
the
that.
date of, it would be the day of the town meeting. It was,
Yep, okay, so I've gone through it and I didn't find any real issues with it. I had a little bit of a question on item 5. There are dates in there, July 19, 2018. It talks about no deviation from the bylaw shall be allowed except in the case of a single-family dwelling structure in development in existence as of July 19, 2018. What's the significance of that date?
I think that's the date of their original bylaw, so we could do something similar, so anyone who's, the date the bylaw becomes effective any of the
So,
laws would predate us.
so that would become the
I believe that's,
Date
yeah.
would pass.
of our
Yeah, date, so-
I had the
bylaw.
same question, John.
So that date there, were we modeling this after somebody else's
Yes.
bylaw? So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah,
That was their,
that was their date. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah, so we just
figuring, that
highlighted it
this
so we don't
must be
forget.
somebody-
yeah, so
Yeah,
we
it's not
don't,
some
we
random
don't
date, so it'll be the
postmark
day
it,
of the
yeah.
bylaw.
Okay. And then, the only other, I had just two other quick things. Under item 7, permits and conditions, last sentence, or it says, furthermore, no grading, filling, excavation, removal of trees or other vegetation, or other construction activity. What I would recommend is, rather than say removal of trees or other vegetation, I would say alteration of trees or other vegetation, including removal, trimming, or planting, because you don't want people to go in there and decide, hey, I'm gonna plant a burning bush, defeats the whole purpose. So I don't know if I have the right wording there, but it goes just beyond the removal of a tree. We do get into people wanting to trim, and then again, they say they're gonna trim, and everybody's view of trimming is a little different.
Yeah.
One guy takes a branch off and the next guy cuts the tree in half. That's the view of trimming. But the planting part I thought was sort of important too,
No,
because
that's a
somebody
good
can
point,
get
yeah.
creative. The other one was, I take it back, I got two other quick comments. Under replication,
We should probably-
replacement, mitigation, that's item 8. It says, the commission may authorize or require replication of wetlands as a form of mitigation, but only with specific plans, professional design, proper safeguards, adequate security. What is adequate security? What does that mean?
Money down.
I,
Money.
I read it to mean that the boulders to keep things from being dumped in there again.
He's reading it as money. He's reading it as
Yeah.
rocks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
would assume
Get
it's,
their take.
yeah, a physical restraint is what I would probably.
Is that what you're, okay,
Let's see.
adequate security.
If that's a confusing.
Consideration should be the word instead of security, you'd think, but
Okay, so maybe we gotta figure out, make that more understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
What that is, and I mean, I don't know if we have to decide tonight, but,
No, because I think what it'll do, if you generally are in, agreement with the,
Yeah.
as it's written, I'll send it to town council and make sure there's nothing untoward, and then we'll bring it back to the next meeting to actually vote on it.
yep, and in that, in that same,
item 8,
Item 8.
very top of the page 3.
yeah, in item 8, that says adequate security. And then in that same paragraph, just going down to the last sentence, says, the amount of replacement area shall be calculated at a ratio of at least 2 to 1. I would just make it real clear, the amount of replication replacement area, get very specific as to what we're talking about here. And in the last, my last comment is under appeals, item 11, I think. It says, it has to be filed with Superior Court. Okay, let me read the sentence, because the applicant, the owner, if not the applicant, any person aggrieved by a determination or order, any owner of land abutting the land on which the work is to be done, or any 10 residents of the town may appeal a decision of the commission under this bylaw in writing, with a copy given to the commission in an action filed with the Superior Court within 60 days of the decision being issued to the applicant. Do they really get 60
Yeah, that's,
days?
that's a standard, yeah.
That's a standard, huh? That long? Wow. So really, it's not a done deal until 60 days
What
clicks
is
by.
But they have to go to Superior Court, which is a lot more.
What
Yeah,
is
but
the
window is
what is the
60
defining
days
start date
wide,
for
right?
the 60-day?
Well,
With the date, I'm assuming with the date DEP gets it.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you get into
Because,
Superior Court.
so currently, the 10-day appeal period does not begin until DEP, until it's postmarked to DEP. So, like, if I send all my order of conditions out tomorrow,
Yeah,
but don't send them to DEP, that 10-day appeal period hasn't started yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we learned that, we have.
It's that-
I just learned that
We
the
just
other
learned that
day.
the other day.
It's upon,
My talk with DEP.
10 days starts upon a
Yeah, clock doesn't
receipt
start
by
ticking
DEP.
until DEP
Upon,
gets
no,
it.
upon the postmark. So when I put it in the mail
Oh,
to DEP,
okay.
the day that it gets postmarked is the day that that 10-day appeal period starts.
Okay,
Assuming that they get it soon after that, but yeah, that's when that appeal period begins.
oh, okay.
So it might be worth clarifying that in the appeal section as well of, you know, when is our appeal period beginning? Or finding out
Yeah,
for the 60-day court thing,
okay.
how, what starts that?
60 days from the date of our decision.
Yeah, so if it's the case of the day of the decision instead of the day it's postmarked to DEP or the day it's postmarked to the applicant.
That's why there's 60 actual days. Because, you know, they may not get the decision, there's the DEP appeal period, but I'm not certain on that.
Yeah.
I think it's the date of our decision. They have 60 days to appeal that to the Superior Court.
I mean, I'll check with town council, but we looked at that few, and that seems to be a common, so I'm assuming that's a statutory requirement. But yeah, everything has to go through Superior Court now. There's no more superseding order conditions from DEP.
Yeah.
Because we have the bylaw.
So, feel free, anybody else with comments, I mean, jump in here, right? I mean, that's the best I could do. Our rest I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And,
I had the same question on the date. I couldn't figure out what that was.
Yeah, no, it's, well, we forget, yeah. And then the other one was,
Martha, you gotta have a comment.
Nope, I'm good.
the
Yeah, the $500.
It was
$500
general
again.
and enough and specific enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, it does reference in here the next big animal, which is the actual regulations. And we were talking about this today a little bit. I don't think these are what actually goes to town meeting.
No, because it says after public notice and public hearing, the conservation shall put into effect rules and regulations.
Right, so we have an opportunity to work on these now and not be under the constraint to get it.
Yeah, this is the one I have to get on the warrant. 'Cause
Yeah.
This is the actual
Yeah.
bylaw, so the other one we can change is.
Yep.
So we should make our comments on this next.
So what, we have to take a vote tonight to present it to, or how do?
I guess, yeah, we should probably recommend
Yeah,
that the
that the
send
commission
it to town
is,
council for review.
in favor of presenting a bylaw to town
Yeah, I mean,
for
that's essentially.
incorporation.
Or if you want to wait till I've gone through town council, just to make sure, I mean, it should be, I'm assuming it's been pretty vetted, because it's verbatim from other towns, so.
But to get it on the warrant, I mean, if we don't take the vote tonight, next month is too late to take that vote.
Well, I can put it on the warrant, so.
Okay.
Actually, no.
I think make a general.
Yeah, you know what?
Let's do it.
I'm not sure the logistics of
And
it, so
then
yeah.
if we have we have to massage it with the attorney, you know,
Yeah,
town
then let's
council,
make a vote to
we
recommend it
massage
to
you
town
know.
meeting.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's a new process. for
Ken,
me, so.
you wanna make it?
I make a
Wait,
motion.
let Martha make it.
Martha, make
this
the
is-
motion.
Martha, you wanna make that motion?
I move
Yeah.
that we present our draft bylaw to town council for review and thence to town meeting.
Yeah, because the deadline for when is March.
Sounds good.
Second.
And Ken seconds, and any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Good job, Martha.
Thank you, John.
I know you've been pushing for this for a long time, so I wanted to give you the honor
Good right there.
to do that. I kept it to the paper clip.
Oh, I see.
Would you guys like to set a rough,
Your finger, okay, thank you.
I guess, cutoff date for when we would like to finish review of regulations, just so we hold ourselves
so
a
the
little bit to the,
14th.
I don't want to rush you guys along in reviewing.
You want to,
regulations.
This
you want to
one's
discuss
longer.
those a little bit? You
Yeah,
want-
that one's a little bit longer.
Yeah,
so
we can keep that one on the, keep
Yeah,
that on the
if we
agenda.
want to do a couple
And we can
months,
just pick it
yeah,
up.
just to,
Let's put it on for next
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 month.
Keep it on there, we'll
month.
pick at it, and that way, when it gets voted at town meeting, then we're ready to issue the bylaw.
Yeah, just give us a clue. Did these have been borrowed from some other town?
yes, they've, they're probably mostly from
Paxton?
They're
Paxton.
pretty much verbatim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they seem like it's the
Were
bare.
these the ones Brad,
There
was
were-
Brad working on these? So Brad, these
Yeah, so
are-
really in the same thing in there, we've kind of highlighted the things you need to think about, which is
Okay.
fees and, which I think Aaliyah came up with a good idea, is we'll just put the appendix in the back.
Okay.
You can just update the fees when we need to.
That's a good idea. So you don't
Other than
have
that,
to update
it's really just mirrors the Wetlands Protection Act and the 30
There's a
foot,
smidgen taken from Hamilton too, because I really
Yeah,
liked their
there was a couple of things we-
regulations.
but were nice.
The musical or the town?
If it's
a
the
valid
musical, she has to
question.
say.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Sure. Do we have a second, though?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.